Hey everybody, welcome back to Life in Room 27. My name is Miss Robinson and I'm back with another math tutorial for you guys. Today we're looking at lesson 6.2, and in lesson 6.2 we are subtracting fractions with unlike denominators. We're still going to be making use of our fraction tiles as we do this, so you should have these with you at home if you're watching this to do your homework. And there will be a couple of things that are similar to today's lesson in comparison to lesson 6.1 where you were adding two fractions with unlike denominators. And that similarity is going to be is that you're always going to want to start with your one whole fraction piece, because that is always your reference point, because we know that fractions represent a part of a whole. The difference will be your second row in the model will be the number or the fractional part that is being subtracted from. So whatever you're subtracting from will be represented in that second row. And then the third row will be what you're actually subtracting. So you're going to model what you're subtracting, and then you're going to figure out what that remaining space represents in terms of fractional parts. So again, in this particular video, I needed some help from Mrs. Chu. So she filmed for me because this happened several days ago. So you'll notice when I'm doing the examples, I'm in a completely different place. I'm in my classroom doing it, and she is filming for me, but it was just so that you guys could see this lesson with the manipulation of fraction tiles. So I'm gonna show you those two examples right now, and then I will give you some closing thoughts on today's lesson. Okay, so in this problem, we're gonna be taking 3/4 and we are going to subtract 1/8. So in this type of problem where you're modeling with fraction tiles and you're subtracting, you still want to have your one whole as your reference point. The second row represents the number that you're subtracting from. So this is 3/4, so I have 1, 2, 3/4 pieces. The third row represents what it is you're subtracting. So I'm subtracting 1/8. Notice here this is all empty because I'm trying to figure out what this value is. If I take 1/8 out of the 3/4, I'm trying to figure out what is going to be left. So it's just like yesterday's lesson where you're just going to start filling in things to see what fits exactly there. So I'll try my 1/6 pieces. Okay, so I have these in there. That's too much, so that tells me it's not going to be my 6 pieces, so I'm going to try something else. If it's not my 6 pieces and I can tell that it's too large, then I'm going to want to try a piece that's smaller, or a fractional part that is smaller than that. So I will try my 12 pieces. Then I'm going to make sure it's all lined up. Ooh. And even that is a little bit too much, so my 12 pieces don't look like they're going to be working. So I will try my 10ths. Then again, that doesn't work, so I'm going to try one more time. It's going to be smaller than my 10ths. So now I'm going to look here. I'm going to try my 8 pieces. And that fits perfectly. Now the only thing you want to make sure that you do when you express your answer, you have to remember that that one doesn't count. This one was already there. That's what you're subtracting. So sometimes I'll move that one out of the way so that I know not to count it in my final answer. So this is telling me that the difference between 3/4 and 1/8 is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5/8. And since 5 is a prime number, it's in simplest form, and again, we'll talk about that a little bit later, but that would be what my answer is. I'm only giving the answer based on what the pieces were that I stuck in that empty spot, not the one that was there, because that was a part of the subtraction problem, which is why I removed that out of the way, so I didn't count it. So I will give you another example. Second example, we're going to subtract 7/10 minus 2/5. So first thing you're going to do is you're going to set down your one whole piece, because that's your reference. Second, you're going to model the number that is being subtracted from, which is 7/10. which means I need 7 of the 1/10 pieces. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and I'm going to try and make sure that they're lined up nice and straight. Then the third row is going to be what it is I'm subtracting from 7/10, and it's 2/5. So I'm going to take 2 of my 1/5 pieces. So that's 1, and that's 2. So what I am looking for is what this area is going to represent. What is the value that is going to be in there? So it's a pretty small space. So what you should eventually get to the point of is knowing that something like this, that wouldn't make any sense. You should be able to look at that and say, that's not going to work. Something like this clearly doesn't make any sense. So you should, at this point, now be able to visually eliminate pieces. So just to start, I'm going to try my 1/6 pieces. So I'm going to put 1 here, and I'm going to put 1 there. Those are still too big. So I know it's not going to be those, and it's going to have to be something smaller than that. So I'm going to try my 1/10 pieces. So I'll put 1 here, 1 there, and 1 there. And those work. So to make sure I represent my answer correctly or the difference correctly, I'm going to take these 2 away, because that was what I was subtracting, because I want to make sure I'm only focusing on representing this part of the third row on my answer. So this tells me that 7/10 minus 2/5, these 2 little 5th pieces that I just moved, is going to be equal to 1, 2, 3/10. So my answer to this one would be 3/10. So when you're doing these problems, just remember that in subtraction, the first thing you're going to do is put down the 1 whole. The second thing you're going to model is the number that's being subtracted from. The third row is going to be the amount that you're subtracting, and then you're just trying to fill in that space. And when you want to represent your answer, I would always suggest removing those subtraction pieces out of the way so that you're only reading what's left after that, and that will give you the answer, or that will give you the difference. So that is it. I'll be back with some final thoughts. I hope those examples were helpful for you guys. So as you're completing your assignment tonight for homework, or if you're preparing for a test, or you're reviewing for a quiz, one of the things that I would suggest that you always remember is A, go ahead and put that 1 whole fraction piece down, because that is your reference point. B, the second row is going to be the modeled fraction that you're subtracting from. C, the third row is going to be the part that you're subtracting. And then the big key for making sure that you represent your answer correctly is that when you're totaling up the difference, that you remember that you do not count the fractional part that represented what you were subtracting. So I think what I did in the examples that I did with Mrs. Chu is I removed that fractional piece away when I was trying to find what my answer or the difference was, because I didn't want to accidentally count that little fractional part that was being subtracted as a part of my final answer. So as always, I hope the examples that I showed you guys were helpful to you. If they were, please give this video a thumbs up, and I will continue to make these for you guys. Other than that, I hope you're having a great day, and I will talk to you in the next video. Bye everybody.